Chapter 2. Sinful Fear. We all know fear. When you experience fear, your body reacts. You feel the adrenaline release as your heart races, your breathing accelerates, and your muscles tense. Sometimes that can be intensely fun. Think of the rush of the roller coaster or the big game. Sometimes it can be terrifying as panic grips you so utterly you cannot think but only shake, sweat, and fret. Underneath those experiences are common thoughts. Our different fears have common traits, a common DNA. However, it is important to recognize that there are different sorts of fear. Confusion on this point is deadly. Take, for example, how some Christians see the lack of reverence and awe of God in our churches and seem to think the answer is to make people afraid of God, as if our love for God needs to be tempered by being afraid of Him. Scripture speaks quite differently. Take, for example, Exodus 20, when the people of Israel gathered at Mount Sinai. Now when all the people saw the thunder and the flashes of lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, the people were afraid and trembled. And they stood far off and said to Moses, "You speak to us and we'll listen, but do not let God speak to us lest we die." Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of Him may be before you, that you may not sin." Moses here sets out a contrast between being afraid of God and fearing God. Those who have the fear of Him will not be afraid of Him. Yet he uses the same fear word for both. Evidently, there is a fear of God that is desirable, and there is a fear of God that is not. Let's have a look now at the different types of fear of God we meet in Scripture. Sinful fear. The first type of fear of God is condemned by Scripture. I've been tempted to call it wrong fear, but there is a sense in which it is quite right for unbelievers to be afraid of God. The holy God is terrible to those who are far from Him. Instead, I'm calling it sinful fear, since it is a fear of God that flows from sin. This sinful fear of God is the sort of fear James tells us the demons have when they believe and shudder. It's the fear Adam had when he first sinned and hid from God. Sinful fear drives you away from God. This is the fear of the unbeliever who hates God, who fears being exposed as a sinner and so runs from God. This is the fear of God that is at odds with love for God. It is the fear rooted in the very heart of sin. Dreading and retreating from God, this fear generates the doubt that rationalizes unbelief. It is the motor for both atheism and idolatry, inspiring people to invent alternative realities in place of the living God. Take, for example, the late Christopher Hitchens, one of the four horsemen of the early 21st century New Atheism. Hitchens preferred to describe himself as an anti-theist because he was opposed to the very possibility of God's existence. But this anti-theism, he was clear, was motivated by a fear of God. Asked on Fox News what he thought about the possibility of God's existence, he replied, "I think it would be rather awful if it was true. If there was a permanent, total, round-the-clock divine supervision and invigilation of everything you did, you'd never have a waking or sleeping moment when you weren't being watched and controlled and supervised by some celestial entity from the moment of your conception to the moment of your death. You'd be like living in North Korea." Hitchens tragically misunderstood God and so feared God.